You've seen all types of crazy things on this channel, from defense bases to beach houses, from mega cities to overly complicated redstone, but now it is time for the ultimate challenge, and this would require playing in survival mode, which we hadn't done since 1.12, which was how many years ago? 3 years ago! Okay, I'm gonna have to watch a few survival guides, but I heard the call and I could not ignore it. It was a challenge that I would accept, a challenge that I had never attempted. It was 100 days of hardcore Minecraft. Our main goal in the 100 days was to see if we could build all of the crazy things we normally build in creative mode in hardcore. Can we create a fully fledged redstone house? Can we make a defense base? Those questions will be answered. Wooden doorway? Absolutely not. A doorway that pulls blocks beneath the ground and sideways in order to create it flush with the floor after spending 5 hours gathering resources. That's what Minecraft is all about. But our main task, our main objective in this series would be to have fun, to enjoy and fall in love with Minecraft once again. For the purposes of this video, 1 day in Minecraft equals 20 minutes in real time. So 100 days would equal 33 hours of gameplay. I recorded every second of our 33-hour journey. How did I fit this all on my hard drive? Well, I just deleted COD, which was for some reason 500 gigabytes. Day 1, no time to waste. I got to chopping down my first tree to make my wooden tools. Boom, wooden pickaxe, there you go. I also spawned in the snowy forest biome, which I didn't like that much, so I decided to make my stone tools and grab some coal to make torches so I could go off and find a good location for our base. This led us up into the mountains where we collected some food from our llamas, and take a look at our terrain, guys. It was pretty treacherous but beautiful, I do have to say. Now, I found the quickest way to get over this terrain was just to build across it, so we made a dirt bridge and also pillared up using some dirt blocks, and that was our journey so far. But night was upon us. I needed to find a location for a temporary shelter because I was getting quite hungry, so I decided to make my shelter in this cave over here. As you can see, my hunger is so low, but we got some cooked pork chops in us, and I decided not to waste any time and go exploring in the night. This led me to my first zombie encounter. We killed that guy pretty easily and headed down into this cavern where we found some iron. Night 1, we found iron. That's so cool, and we found even more. By day 2, we smelted down this iron to get our iron tools and of course our iron sword, which allowed us to go exploring in the caves. Now, in the caves, I got even more iron and a lot of other things that we would need, and I even encountered a skeleton dungeon. This thing was going to be so useful to us. I was really excited, so I immediately cleared out the area, did this little slab trick to kill the skeletons. There was some water in there, which made it a bit tricky, but we eventually got to solve that issue by cutting off the water source, and then I made myself a full set of iron armor. Yes, a full set of armor. Went into our mob spawner to kill the final skeleton. There he is, and then we could, claim this for ourselves. We could do with it now whatever we wanted. This gave me some confidence, so I went exploring the caves more and ran into a bunch of zombies. I was pretty scared, to be honest, since this was my first hardcore survival game, but the zombies weren't that smart. I just pushed them into some lava. Now, I decided to make the mob spawner my base of operations, and in order to do that, I needed to staircase all the way up to the surface, which I did, and I also expanded the staircase and added in some stairs to make traveling up and down easier. I also found a lava pit on the staircase, which will come in handy, and that was day 2, our staircase down to our mob spawner. Day 3, I wanted to clear out the area around my staircase and also gather some wood, so this worked out, and I went exploring the forest where we got some more food from the piggies and also found this pit down to the earth, so I covered that up immediately. Then we went down to our staircase to grab some flint and make a flint and steel, and can you guess? Yes, we burnt down the entire forest to make room for our base. I found this was just the quickest way to do it. And while this was happening, I went ahead and started creating our temporary shelter. So this is going to be a temporary shelter, but also a mining shaft house. So you'd basically go into this building if you wanted to go into the mines. We did a bit of terraforming and also placed torches everywhere. And I mean absolutely everywhere, because I wasn't taking any chances. We started flattening out our terrain to make everything look prettier, and we continued building up our shack into the night. So that was pretty much stuck in this location. Might as well. We used some of the blocks that we had and eventually ran into an Enderman. I used this little trick in order to kill this guy without taking any damage. As you can see, just knocked out some blocks, made some defenses, and boom, we killed him on day 3. Got ourselves an ender pearl as well. That was pretty cool. We continued building into the night with some upside down slabs and some ladders. We were going completely overboard at this point, but why not? We were, like I said, stuck in this location, so might as well make it look good and get this out of the way. The roof came out looking better than I thought, and the shack would be complete by day 3. Into day 4, I decided to make my first layer of defense, which is going to be a trench. We would also use the blocks from this trench to terraform and flatten the area, so it served multiple purposes. Now, I also extended this trench by 2 blocks, and we worked into the night, which attracted some phantoms, a lot of phantoms actually, and this is pretty terrifying to me since I really haven't seen phantoms in Minecraft since I don't play survival. This drove us down into the mines where we found some iron to make shears. We went looking for some sheep. We found those guys and took their wool. Now there's some naked sheep roaming around our base, which, by the way, this is how that was going. Pretty good. And we continue day 4 by doing some more terraforming. We had to actually build up the trenches in some locations because, like I said, the terrain wasn't flat, but we got most of that done. Check out our area. It's coming together. This project would definitely take some time, but I added in dirt whenever and wherever I could. By then, I needed to make a bed because the phantoms were coming after me once more, but I decided to take the bow and the arrows that I got from the skeleton spawner to fight the phantoms. Why not? I haven't fought these guys before. So we eventually got our first kill, and they didn't really drop anything useful. It also started raining, so I decided to add in a few minor decorations like this trapdoor and some ladders going down to our mine. I made my bed and then called it a night. Day 5, I did some major terraforming. I basically chopped down this entire hill next to our trench on the enemy side. It was completely flat now, and we could use that dirt to flatten the inside. And this actually allowed me to flatten a huge portion of the inner section of our base, which you will see looks really, really awesome. Now we'll have a lot of space to build whatever we want. Check it out. Pretty cool. This extended into day 6, where we also started to make our skeleton mob grinder. I tried to make a few designs on my own without looking anything up, but this led me into doing some really noobish things. Like you can see, I placed down water next to our torches. This allowed a skeleton to spawn, but I eventually took care of this guy, and through trial and error, I decided, yes, I needed to dig out the space beneath my spawner. This process would take a very long time leading into day 7 and day 9, but it was definitely going to be worth it. I also had to strip mine to find some more iron to make hoppers. So this is basically what I was doing. I just made huge long strip mines, and then I got enough of the iron to eventually make the hoppers, and then I continued digging down all the way to bedrock, and this would give us just a nice traditional mob spawner. There you go, huge pit into the ground. We also made another mistake of trying that water thing again, but I eventually figured out that I needed to make the water at the top and push them down to the bottom. So basic mob spawner stuff here. It was just taking quite a while, but it would give us arrows, bone meal, and bows to make dispensers. So this is actually going to be really worth it. As you can see, we're continuing to build out our mob spawner. We had the whole idea down at this point, and there you go. By the time I placed down the final slab towards the bottom, we had the skeleton spawner working, and this was, like I said, going to give us a ton of useful items. We messed around with a few different upgrades, added in a collection system, and even added in some lava to help us kill the mobs automatically. Just check it out. We punched them at their feet, and they die within the lava. Then we get all that XP and also the items in the chest. But there you go, our mob spawner now working. Now in day 10, we made our first shield, which allowed us to go out exploring a bit. We went out to grab some sand to make glass. I knew we were going to need glass in the future, and also we were going to need some more food, so I just killed the pigs that was near my base. I went out into the forest to try to look for other cool things. We did find a bunch of wolves. Now, using the bones we got from our mob grinder, we could actually tame these guys. And on this journey, I also picked up some sugar along the way. This forest was really dense, and I was pretty much exploring at this point, but we ran into some more wolves, and I decided, why the heck not? We had so many bones, let's just create a wolf army. Now, I was just going crazy with this thing, but there you go, guys, check it out. We had so many dogs at this point. It was really crazy. I would carry these guys everywhere with me, and look at them piling into the house. So after we took a quick nap with our 26 different dogs inside of our shack, I decided to continue mining out and terraforming the terrain, of course, by taking dirt from the outside of our base and putting it into the inside. So I just wanted to again show you guys the process of this because the progression does look pretty cool. We added in our sugarcane farm and then a temporary dog shelter because there's too many dogs inside of our house. Into day 11, we started strip mining, and I mean serious mining, where we found loads of gold and iron. I mean, just look at the length of that tunnel. We smelted these things down and even started smelting down our glass. We continued mining where we found some emerald and even ran into some silverfish. I don't know why they were here, but we killed those guys pretty easily, I would say. And then once we had that taken care of, I placed some water down to make some obsidian in this hole I found in the ground, jumped down, and this actually led us to finding a ton of redstone. Also allowed us to find this cave over here, which we cleared out and went exploring inside of. We got even more redstone, which was really crazy. And then inside of this cave, boom, there you go, day 11, we got our first set of diamonds. As you can see, I'm still pretty excited about finding diamonds. It's such a great feeling in Minecraft. We only got 2 of them, but I was still pretty happy. And we ran into this mine shaft down here, which I decided to completely take for everything it had. I took the rails, I took the iron, I took the redstone, gold, anything that I could find, because I wanted to gather as much as I could now and then use that to build with later. Day 12, we continued with the terraforming, and I was determined to finish the flattening of our terrain today so I can move on to other projects. We eventually accomplished this task, and there you have it, a massive terrain which we could build on. I finished out the day by using the broken bows we got from our mob grinder to make dispensers. This was a great way to use those broken bows. We started day 13 by grinding some mobs in our mob grinder to get experience as well as bone meal, which we could use to build our redstone farm later on. We got up to 24 levels before I checked on my smelting operation. As you can see, we had a lot of iron and gold. Pretty cool. We went up to the surface where we begun to make our redstone farm. I tested out a few different methods. I slowly but surely started building this up. As you can see, I first tested out the levers, then I expanded it with some redstone repeaters. As you could tell, it was starting to come together. We had the blueprint, but I wanted to expand my farm, so I headed back down to our mob grinder to gather some more bone meal and some more bows. We also grinded until we had about 30 levels. In day 14, I tried to automate the system by adding in pressure plates, redstone, and a piston, but pistons are transparent and I wouldn't be able to make the system until I had sticky pistons. I went back to expand my farm. By this time, I had loads of dispensers and a more compact redstone design. We had the system pretty much working at the moment, producing a lot of wheat. Now we could easily, instead of waiting for days and days to get wheat, can add it into our system and get stacks of bread quickly. And I'll show you this process right now, just destroying and replacing and using the redstone to place on the bone meal. This was a advancement for me. And we also replanted our sugarcane. As you can see, we had a lot at this point. Of course, we would need that for our bookcases, and by the end of the day, we had 3 stacks of seeds as well as 3 stacks of wheat. Now day 15 and day 16, I went mining down to find even more diamonds because we still didn't have enough to create even a pickaxe. This led me into the mine shaft where where we battled a few mobs. I actually got attacked by this poison spider, which almost killed me. I wasn't really prepared for this. I should have gotten some milk, but after killing that zombified villager, I went up to the top and I re-examined my situation and decided to go get a bucket of milk because that was something that I was gonna need. Now we went back down into the mines where we fought a skeleton. We also encountered many other mobs here, but I was kind of cautious, so I took a dog down with me. We encountered this creeper, which was just walking directly towards me. I mean, he does not fear a thing. I tried to run through the caves. As you can see, there's lava everywhere and there's webs, and I was just freaked out at this point. I was running far away from this thing as possible because this guy was not exploding, but eventually he did explode, and that was one thing off of my chest. That was one thing I didn't have to worry about anymore. So I continued with the exploration of the mine shaft, where we encountered even more mobs, the zombie, which we just totally killed, my dog killed at least, and even more zombies. So we're just basically clearing this thing out, torching it out so we could take whatever that was left inside of this mine shaft. And we got some iron and some redstone, as you can see there. A creeper walking up to me. This guy's scaring me all the way to the back. Yet again exploding, even though I was nowhere near him. And then we eventually ran into another creeper up in that corner. I don't know if you guys spotted it, but yes, there was a poison spider spawner there. I just blocked this thing out. Considering one almost killed me, I did not want to fight this at the moment, but I did pick a battle with the skeleton since I had the shield. This thing is so useful against skeletons. I'm happy that they added it in. But another skeleton came along and they decided to double team me, and this was taking out a lot of my health. So they chased me pretty much back towards my strip mine, where we mined out into another direction and eventually found another cave system. And inside this cave system, we would get some more ores, we'd do some more exploration, and obviously fight some more skeletons. These guys are everywhere, but with our dog, we could just easily take them out. Check it out. They don't stand a chance. Now we went back up on day 17 to clear out this area around a ravine that I found. I just did that by lighting the forest on fire, and I did a bit of a risky move here by jumping. I could have easily fell down into the ravine there and killed myself, but I pillared up to the top to take a look at our terrain. We eventually found a plains biome, which I would head to after I went back home and gathered up some sugarcane. Since it was nighttime, I did not want to be traveling at night. We would replant our sugarcane and then use some of it to make our first book. And then I realized we needed a hide in order to make books, so I went out into the plains, since we've already found that, and started harvesting a bunch of resources. I got some apples and some saplings, which we could use a little bit later. I also wanted to make golden apples using all of the gold. I went home to drop off some items and came back to start murdering cows, pigs, and pretty much anything that I could find. Anything that could give me hide. We even took out a donkey or two. Our wolf helped with us, and then we got some more pork chops. We pretty much went exploring out towards that direction, building a temporary shelter. Going into day 18, I might add, we went to another plains biome looking for horses, killing as many of them as we could. We needed about 40 hide in order to make our full set of bookcases for our enchantment room. And then we built up once again to take a look at our terrain. There was cows everywhere. I was just honing in on that leather because I really needed it, as well as you can see, I have 2 golden apples now in my inventory. I don't know if you guys spotted it there, but there was my temporary shelter off into the distance. And on day 19, I fought an enderman. So these guys are spawning everywhere. I decided, why the heck not? Let's just kill them whenever we could find them. And my dog actually did most of the job this time, so thank you, doggo. And we continued in this morning into the day by killing the last remaining bits of horse and cows that we would need for our hide to make our bookcases, and then returned home, where we gathered all of the wood on day 20 for those bookcases. As you can see, just chopping down loads and loads of tree. We stopped by that ravine to go exploring a bit. We went down using a bucket of water, and inside of this cave there was just loads of mobs and not really much. It wasn't deep enough to where we could find special ores like diamond, so I decided just get out of that cave. There's no point. Let's go down to the mine where we could actually find diamonds, and boom, there you go, guys. We found our second bit of diamonds on day 20. I was super excited about this, and we also picked up some obsidian, which we could use to make our enchantment table. Now, day 20, we saw another enderman. Like I said, these guys are everywhere, and our dog took care of the job once more. Day 21 was pretty traumatizing for me. I went into the mine just thinking it was a normal day, going to explore and find some diamonds, really happy about it, and all of a sudden, a creeper spawned right next to me. What is Minecraft doing? This thing exploded right in front of me, taking out 5 hearts. I was traumatized. I was so shook that I didn't want to go anywhere in the game. I just realized that all that I have done in the last 20 days could have been taken away from me because creepers spawn everywhere. I got super paranoid. I decided to block out all the areas, but I eventually found some diamonds just 2 seconds after beginning mining. And what happened now, since I was traumatized, is that I completely forgot to pick up the diamonds. Now, I don't know if you see my inventory, and this is why I'm showing my inventory while I'm making the anvil and while I'm checking the furnaces, but I didn't pick up the diamonds. I didn't even notice as I'm looking at the recipe in my recipe book. I still haven't noticed that, hey dummy, you left all of the diamonds in the floor. So I didn't actually have it, but I went up now in day 21. Before I built the enchantment room, I wanted to create parts of the house. I made the outline for the house, as you can see, and just using some of the blocks that I had previously gotten from the strip mine, just building out our walls and trying to create a modern design with this polished diorite. I would also make large windows since I didn't have that many blocks to begin with. And finally, I started the process of turning our sugarcane into paper and our paper and leather into books. At this point, after making the bookcases, I realized, hey, I left the diamonds in the mine, and you can see I'm just frantically looking around. Where are all the diamonds? Where's the diamonds that it's got? And I just remembered, oh, that's right, I left it in the mine, and there you go. They're not there anymore. They have despawned at this point, but luckily I didn't mine out all the diamonds. I actually only mined 2 that I needed, so I went back and got the 2 remainder, and I would go back up to the surface and take out my anger on this enderman, which by the way just slayed my dog. Yep, let's just slap him around. Boom, there you go. He didn't even drop an ender pearl. By day 22, we had already built out our enchantment room. Now all that was left was to decorate the inside of our house by digging up the floor and adding in an oak wood plank floor. Then we would use some of the glass to add in the windows, of course. As you can see, just lots of glass. This huge side and also the huge front was going to be completely made out of glass to make a modern look. So far, so good. It looks kind of decent for the blocks that I was using. We built out the doorway a bit, just like so. And then we also added sort of a utility station with our crafting table and anvil. We added some doors, and finally the bed on the inside, which would allow us to stop sleeping in the doghouse. We finished up the day by repairing our armor in the anvil, and then we would use this armor to enchant. We get protection 2 on our chest plate and unbreaking on our leggings. This was pretty decent for now. The next day, I continued decorating our house. This time the exterior, I didn't have any particular design in mind. I was just trying to make it look more modern by adding in leaves to all the different sides and also upside down slabs. It was looking pretty decent so far, and I did expect to change or modify the house later in the future, but that was the back, and like I said, it was looking quite nice. Now, we continued this day by building up a storage room. I was going to need a lot of space to hold all of the items I was getting from my mine, so we started building that out using slabs, and I wanted to be sort of like an open area and not made out of glass like all the other rooms, and also wanted to make it into the ground, and this area in the ground would actually hold water. I did add some glass on the left and right hand side, which looked a little bit nice, and it filled out the area with water. As you can see, our dog is taking a swim in there, and I would pretty much have this as the design for the room. And then in day 24, I would continue building it, building up the corners and the areas that would hold our chests, and then placing down these chests on the smooth stone blocks. I would gather more of our wood to make more chests and then fill out the area until we had enough storage that I was satisfied, and then I would head into the mines on day 24 to get enough levels to enchant our items. I enchanted my diamond pickaxe off camera, so I decided just to get my levels back up to 30 at the beginning of day 25. I also used the bone meal from grinding mobs to refill all of our dispensers. You can probably spot that diamond pick in my inventory. I also checked the enchantments for all of my iron equipment. I didn't think it was worth enchanting the iron, so I went looking for more diamond. I also picked up some obsidian along the way, and I pretty much continued mining until I could find diamond. I've even found a ravine all the way down towards the end, and I'll show you guys in a second what I mean by all the way down. But inside the ravine, we actually spotted a diamond. This is only one diamond, unfortunately, but we spent the rest of this time torching out the ravine and looking for anything that it had. It wasn't deep enough to get diamonds, but we did find loads of iron, which we picked up, and then we continued back into our mine. So this is how long we were mining, just in a straight line headed towards our mob grinder. This is just such a long distance, and we had 4 of these, not just one, but 4 of them at this point. And once we get to the end and I turn the corner, check this out, another huge tunnel going down the other direction. But we got a lot of redstone out of it, and we did get 1 diamond. I went back to drop the items and go to mining into day 29, where we would eventually find more diamonds. I really should have enchanted my pickaxe with fortune, but we got a lot of iron, we got a lot of gold along with that, and we had now 13 diamonds, which we would be able to use to create even more equipment. I was really on fire at this point, so I continued mining until I could find more diamonds. As you can see, another huge long tunnel, and we created another anvil here down in the mine. We have one upstairs and one downstairs. I enchanted the iron pick to get fortune and efficiency, and this thing was just tearing through even faster than the diamond pickaxe. It would really go down quickly, it would be destroyed very quickly. That's why I created the anvil. And as you can see, I used up pretty much all of my enchantments, repairing it 3 times and using it 3 times. But we would go back now on day 30 to raise our enchantment levels back up, since we used it on the diamond pick to do a lot of mining. And since that took up most of the day, I decided to just improve my farm by grabbing some redstone, grabbing all of the items I would need. I had a ton of redstone at this point, and digging out underground and making myself a rapid signal dispense system. So now instead of having to click the button multiple times, I could just click it once, and this would send a rapid signal into the dispensers, and that is all the redstone for that. It was working a lot better than it was before. Check it out. Day 31, since I was already making improvements to the house, I decided to add a garden, and this garden would be the home for our bees that we'll be getting in the future, because of course we need bees in order to make honey blocks, which we could use in redstone creations. I did make this looking as best as I could, adding in different flowers, bushes, as well as slabs everywhere. I think it came out looking pretty well. And then once we had the garden completed, as you can see, we continued working on the roof. At the end of day 31, I basically made the borders of the roof using our smooth stone blocks, and it was a huge process, since we had to basically make smooth stone and then make the smooth stone blocks. Into day 32, we then switched over to using the slabs, an upside down slab. That way we would spend less resources creating the roof, and we would eventually build this all the way out until we finally covered up the storage room. I was very pleased with how everything was looking so far. We had our house made. I never thought I would make it this far, to be honest. We were doing so well in hardcore at the moment, and here's a view of the outside from the hill next to us. And we continued this day by removing all of the cobblestone that we had in our floor temporarily and adding in the dirt, which we now had loads of. And then we continued decorating around the house, adding in a few minor decorations and improvements, which just make the house bring to the next level. It just takes it to that next step above. And then we just added some torches around to make sure mobs didn't spawn, made some buckets at the end of day 32, filled them up with lava, and we would use this lava to, of course, start filling in our lava pit. So here we go, guys. Finally, we can add lava into our lava pit. I didn't add in like on every single block. I made spaces in between because this makes more sense in my opinion. And for creative mode, of course, you want to fill it all in. But there you go. At the end of day 32, our house was looking epic. I mean, I was so happy with it, guys. You have no idea. Day 33, we started our next project, and for this one, we were going to need a lot of wood. So I basically chopped down every tree that I could find. We would use this mainly for fuel, and the fuel was going to be used to create smooth stone, which we would use to create these stone bricks in our stone cutter. I also enchanted my iron axe to get efficiency and unbreaking to make the chopping down of trees easier, since I wasn't really utilizing my enchantment table that much up until this point. But we got that enchanted and went back to chopping down even more trees because, like I said, we're going to need a lot. Now, at the start of day 34, we started that project, which was going to be a redstone bridge. Now, I needed to make the redstone bridge because if we were going to add the lava pit around the entire house, we would need a safe way to get across, and jumping over lava every single day or every single time I needed more food was a little bit too risky for me, especially in hardcore mode. So as you can see, I'm building it up, making just a decent frame, then adding in trapdoors. It was going to be a very simple redstone bridge. I didn't have the slime blocks to make something that was popping out of the ground. I also didn't have sticky pistons, but much of this day was spent creating all of the components that we would need, smelting down the stone to make the repeaters, and placing the repeaters now on the sides of the trapdoors. And as you can see, we're testing out the system and it works so far. I always recommend testing out your redstone as you're building it and not at the very end, because you never know if it doesn't work and you don't want to destroy everything and start over. So we're testing it phase by phase. We added the redstone underground. Now we're building up the stairs on either side, and now we would continue adding in the decorations. We had the redstone working. All that was left was to cover it up and make it look semi-decent. This is not the best design, but we're going to work with what we have and, you know, create something that doesn't look like a giant block. I added in some stairs, some cobblestone, utilizing some of the blocks that I already had to create something that looks kind of decent, and also mixing some wood in there with it as well, since we had loads of wood now, adding in torches for the night, and we would call that day 34. We would continue into day 35 building this thing out. It would require a lot of different blocks, and also us making these pillars towards the top with the upside down staircases, and it was definitely coming together. It was going to be a really interesting looking redstone bridge for sure. We linked them up together using the upside down slabs and placed down the circular type of brick all the way at the top, and then finally finishing it off with some cobblestone. And check it out, guys, we're actually using a lot of dirt as well to get around this entire structure. As you can see, to place down all of these different stairs, we needed to make a dirt like outline across it because we didn't have bamboo to make the scaffolding. But now we're basically finishing up the design, making it look not so blocky, and then towards the top we'll add in the glass to complete the entire creation. Now, of course, we needed to terraform the area around it as well because the terrain is not actually suited for it. We added a few minor decorations, and then we also adjusted the redstone because we were going to put a lava pit underneath this thing. And here comes the skeleton. Already our bridge was being put to the task. There he goes into our pit. Now we actually start digging the thing to add in the lava. This is actually going to be a quite deep space where the mobs will just fall into. I terraformed it a bit to make it all one contained area, and then we added in the lava, and now we had a working redstone bridge with a lava pit underneath. That was definitely an achievement for me, and I continued the rest of the day by adding in more lava into the pits surrounding our house, since we had that bridge now in that location. And boom, there you have it, guys, our redstone bridge with our lava pit. Isn't that epic? The next day, I don't know if you've noticed, but the redstone bridge just goes straight into the side of a hill. We needed to fix this by adding in an underground tunnel which would lead into an exit. So we did this by digging out the wall, staircasing up, and adding in gravel. We used the gravel that we had by digging out the first initial staircase at the beginning. Then we just decorated this a bit by switching it up all into cobblestone, and just a lot of work went into this to make it look nice. This is going to be a grand entrance for our base, so we wanted it to look cool because this is the thing that you would see or anyone would see when you enter and exit the base. We added in some of our staircases and start building up the top structure as nighttime approach. Now, we would use just some repurposed blocks that we were going to use for a bridge anyways, and then we would finally add in some walls towards this section in order to not have mobs, you know, cut through and do like a little shortcut into our bridge area. At this point, I found out that mobs were spawning underneath our house, preventing me from sleeping, so I had to go underneath the house, and I saw a creeper that was right next to our redstone. That was pretty dangerous, so yep, I went to torching out the entire bottom, and I swear, right after I turned my back, a creeper spawns right in front of me again. What is happening with this game? Creepers are spawning everywhere, and it doesn't make any sense. We finished out day 36 by adding in the last remaining touches to our exit, and then there we have it, guys. The exit going down into the ground, through the redstone bridge, and into our base where we could close the redstone doors behind us. That is awesome. Day 37, after such a long project, I was hungry for adventure, so I went exploring on the other side of our base this time, going up through the hills, going across so much different terrain, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I upgraded to a diamond chestplate and diamond leggings. You can see my armor went up a touch, and at this point I started to fall in love with Minecraft because the music started once again. I'll just leave you guys to it. It's safe to say that I was falling back in love with Minecraft, and after examining the terrain, I found a village fairly close to my base. It was nighttime, the sun was setting, and I was feeling very happy that I decided to go on this adventure. After sleeping at home, I returned to the village in the morning. I was excited to explore this place and see what I could find, but unfortunately, it was going to be a really bad village located in a really bad area. I did find 4 emeralds in a chest, and I explored some of the trades that these guys were giving off. I mean, a smite sword and fire aspect for 14 emeralds, that's not bad. I checked the farmer, he was also trading potatoes and beets for emeralds. We could use some of the potatoes, which I did take from his farm, to get emeralds in the future, but all in all, not a good village. There's not really much, and it was generated pretty badly. So on day 38, we spent the night in the village. I decided to examine my terrain once more, look for another village, or look for some more adventure. We found plains, we found forests, we found another tundra biome, but we saw a portal off into the distance. So we had the destination for our next trip. Now, I also figured out that this river actually leads directly to my base. So what I did was make a boat, and then from the village, I could actually row this boat all the way back to my base. So this is actually very convenient. Instead of traveling up and down over terrain or making a railway, I could just use a dock and make a dock at the village and have a dock at my base, which is pretty cool in my opinion. Now, we return to the mine at the end of this day because when we have any leftover time in the day, I just go mining and just straight into the mine, and I'm leaving this unedited so you guys can see how quickly we find diamonds here. But we went into the mine, not going too far, not spending any time really. We found diamonds almost immediately, and this was so cool to me. I was preparing for like a huge hour-long mining thing, but I got mine almost immediately, and I guess my excitement got over me because I forgot to mine it with the fortune pickaxe once again. So I just got regular diamonds. I only got 6 of them, but it was enough to craft another piece of armor, which we did. As you can see, my armor went up a tiny bit. Now into day 38, I went mob grinding once more to get the levels for enchanting my new diamond armor. And look at the amount of bows that we have filling up that chest, and the amount of arrows. We were having so many things in that chest, I decided to transfer over the 17 stacks of arrows that I had, and then a wandering trader showed up, and this guy was selling glowstone for emeralds. So luckily we found some emeralds and had some emeralds from before, and now we had 4 glowstone. Day 40, we spotted an enderman having some trouble with our lava pit. Yes, this thing is actually doing some work and allow us to kill this enderman quite easily. He didn't drop any ender pearls, but either way, we continued now using that one potato that we got to farm it into stacks and stacks of potatoes, which we could use to trade in the village. So this redstone system, even though it's not automatic, it being semi-automatic, allowed us to get a lot of resources, a lot of wheat, a lot of potatoes very, very quickly. We rode on over to the farm to trade this thing. Look at that, 5 stacks of potatoes. We got ourselves some emeralds, as many emeralds as we could until he stopped giving us that trade. But I went back home to the wandering trader to use those emeralds to buy 5 more glowstone, or actually 1 more glowstone to add to make 5, which we would use to create redstone lamps that we would add into the ceiling. So at the remainder of day 40, we added in our redstone lighting to our house, and this was working out really well because we didn't even need to go to the nether to get any of this. But after some time, I got all of the redstone working, and now we had lights inside of our house. That was pretty cool. I also removed some of the torches to make it look better because there's no sense in having torches and redstone lighting, right? So yeah, we did that. We went back to the farm to get all those potatoes, and while I was farming, another enderman spawned, so I thought, let's just kill this guy, and he was tricked again by the lava pit, so that lava pit was putting in some work for sure. We went back to farming, just a peaceful, nice day. What could possibly go wrong? And then I look up to see a creeper inside of my house. What is with all of these creepers spawning everywhere? Now I was gonna shoot this guy, but I left all of the arrows in the house. You guys saw it earlier. I put all of them inside the chest, so I had to go down, grind some mobs to get some arrows, and kill this guy. And I was definitely going to add in torches along with my redstone lights inside the house because I don't want this to happen again. Day 41, I decided to build out sort of a temporary dock. This is the best I could do, honestly, and then go off to find that nether portal. I traveled lightly in typical fashion, and I eventually reached our nether portal. I wasn't going to use this. I just wanted to strip it for everything it had, and luckily it had the magma blocks to create a bubble elevator, some horse armor, as well as a golden apple and a block of gold at the top. So yeah, we just took all those things, and then at the end of this day, I scanned my surroundings once more, and I found a second village. This village was not too far from the first one. There's the first one right over there, and there's my path burnt back towards the river, which leads to our base, just to let you guys know where all of these things are located. Day 42, we fought through the night to make it to our village. We would spend the night here because we don't want to be roaming around while it's dark. That's a pretty bad idea. I saw an enderman in the morning, and like we always do, we just kill these guys to get their ender pearls. I didn't actually drop one, but I also saw some creepers, which I would unleash my vengeance upon because I do not like creepers. Since I started the series, we killed those guys and then started exploring our village. We found this huge ravine, yet again another bad village spawn. There really wasn't much here. I raided the chest for emeralds, but that was pretty much it. The spawning was just so terrible. I mean, it spawned with a ravine splitting down the middle. So I continued on with my journey, burning down the forest along the way to mark my territory and assert my dominance upon the population. But we continued on to the plains beyond the second village where we found some horses, but as the sun was beginning to set, I needed to set up a temporary shelter, so I did right next to the ocean here. And it's important to remember that yes, we made it all the way to an ocean and we set up this base because we would revisit this later on in our 100 days. When I scoped out the rest of the area at the end of day 42, we just found highlands, more forests, and no structures. At this point, I decided not to waste any more time and just head back home. Now, this journey would take quite a while since I had to travel across multiple biomes, but by nighttime, we eventually made it back to our base. Now, I would spend the remainder of the day mining because, like I said, with any remaining time, we just use that to mine. And we found diamonds once again, and I wasn't going to make the same mistake that I made before. I grabbed my almost broken iron efficiency pickaxe, went down to get those diamonds, and we got 2 per block. So now we had enough diamonds to craft a full set of of armor. So on day 44, we made our diamond leggings and diamond helmet to complete our full diamond armor set. Check it out, guys. We're going to put on our full set of diamond armor, grab our diamond sword on day 44. This is epic. This gave me so much confidence. So I immediately headed back to the mine, to that spider spawner, to take my revenge on them. And unfortunately, this was pretty anticlimactic, as you can see. I just went straight into the mob spawner and just torched it out, and that was pretty much that. So we went back up and saw these zombies getting pranked by our lava pit. Then we continued by building our nether portal. I thought this was a very appropriate time to do it. Day 44, we finally got this thing done and ignited it to create our nether portal off the ground, I might add. Then we just went into the nether. We spawned underground, so what I decided to do was just to grab some quartz, and then once I had the quartz, I would head back to the overworld since the day was coming to an end. I didn't want to go off into a nether exploration just yet, but the important part was that we can now create observers. Day 45 marked the beginning of my next major project. I had the observers to create complex redstone creations, but I needed slime blocks. Of course, slime is very hard to find in Minecraft, so we opted to go for honey blocks. I followed around some bees looking for their hives, and this process was a lot harder than I thought it would be, to be honest, but it was also my first time ever doing it. After a while, we found some more bees, and after looking around for some time, we found our first hive. This thing was really hidden back there, so we set up a temporary shelter just to take a short nap and wait for honey to appear in that hive. While that was happening, I went around looking for more hives in order to see if they had any honey in them. We found this one and then another one right next to our temporary shelter, and at this point I realized that instead of waiting for honey to appear, I could just plant flowers and bring the bees over to one hive, and this will just speed up the process. So after doing that, we quickly got our first bit of honeycomb, and now we could take our bees back to our base. Now this was going to be one of the hardest processes in Minecraft for me. Taking bees across multiple biomes and not losing them along the way to eventually bring them into my base was one of the hardest things I did in this entire series, mainly because it just took so long. It was so tedious. I was really frustrated with this process, and I questioned why this was even a thing in Minecraft. Why couldn't I net them? Can you net them, or am I just being a noob here? But either way, I sped up the process just to show you how long this would take. I had to take 2 or 3 steps and then look behind me every 2 seconds because sometimes they would just fly away. The range of the flowers to the bee attraction is not that far, but we traveled and traveled until the sun was beginning to set. Luckily, we reached near one of our temporary shelters where we could actually go in there and sleep with our bees. I obviously didn't want to travel at night with 2 flowers in my hand to fight off mobs, so we slept with our bees. That's really cute, actually, and continued our journey towards our base. I left this part in just to show you guys where the environment was, where the paths that we were taking were located, and really just to get a feel for the map. We are traveling now past the area where we got our first bit of apples, the sheep, and the cow for our farm, and now we're going through the trenches into the biome where our house is located, past the area where we got all of the glass, and then eventually we'll go over the hill to see our base. So we eventually made it there, guys, after almost an entire 20-minute day of just walking with bees and flowers in my hand. It was so crazy that we made it to our bridge. There to go through the bridge and finally into the house. I was so relieved and so happy, and one immediately died in the lava pit, so we had to mate them and get a baby bee. Day 46, I was going to decorate my nether portal. We added in just some random blocks, no particular design in mind. I just wanted it to look better than a nether portal sitting on top of dirt, as well as check out this bee flying right above the lava. That guy just doesn't care, but we continue with the decoration. After totally guessing, we finally had a decent looking nether portal and our bees were happy, so I decided to make more redstone lamps with the glowstone that we had. If you remember, before we only had 5 glowstone, so now I was able to finish up the redstone lighting for the roof, add a floor to our storage room, create some golden apples, and anger our bees because I didn't harvest it properly. I was such a noob, and I also found out that this thing actually poisons you. But I drank some milk, and then while I was making a hive, this happened. Yep, the bee flew into lava and died. This was extremely frustrating, and on day 47, I got all of the sand that I would need to create glass to make a bee enclosure. I also needed to find another bee because all of our bees were dying, but we eventually found another bee and then did the same process over by carrying him all the way back to our base. Eventually we made it there, and I was praying that he wouldn't die before we could create the bee enclosure, but we went back, made some bottles as well because we were starting to get honey from our hive. We took a nap, and in the morning we saw some creepers creeping up to our base. I would quickly take these guys out, this being the most action that I've had in quite some time, and then we would harvest our sugarcane, make the farm smaller, and then turn it into a redstone auto farm. Since we didn't have sticky pistons anyways, I found this was a great use of our redstone resources. We added in a bunch of pistons, and now we had all the observers we need to create the farm. And after this, I used up most of my iron to create all of the hoppers I would need for the collection system. Day 48 came, and we now had visual confirmation of the Buzzy Boys flying into lava. What the heck is up with the BAI? But we continued building up the sugarcane farm and also harvesting honey along the way. Now take a look at the amount of iron that you see on your screen right now. That is crazy as we continue to build out the collection system for our automated farm, adding in that minecart. Look at it go. And the rest of the day, we just continued building up this auto farm. Although this process would take 2 days, it would be worth it since we no longer ever had to harvest a piece of sugarcane ever again. We could just sit back and enjoy all of the sugar that will come to us. But now we're adding in the last bits of glass, adding in the collection area, and then finishing up the design. We harvested some more honey. This process was taking a bit too long for my liking, but on day 49, we began the construction of our wall. This was desperately needed as you saw multiple bees died because of the lava pit. I built the wall up in a medieval style, mainly to save resources and to utilize whatever remaining blocks I did have. I created a pattern, and then I would repeat this pattern around the entire base to get our wall. I also stopped to harvest some more honey, and the process of lighting the fire, getting bottles, and then putting the fire out just to get one bottle of honey to make one honey block was taking way too long. We continued building the wall using staircases, and like I said, on survival, we don't really plan these things out, but it came out looking pretty good. Check out our base. It is coming together, looking a bit intimidating. We went to the back of the base to finish out the terraforming and make it look more natural, because if we're gonna have an epic wall, we need to have the terrain to suit it. And then we added the final bits of decoration to the wall, which was going to be walls connecting up the pillars and wall blocks added to the walls. I wanted to be specific on that. On day 50, we headed into the mines to get iron to create an automated bee farm. Now, if you remember, I used up almost all of my iron creating the sugarcane farm. It's almost like that wasn't a good idea. Get your priorities in order past Twiistz. But we mined for a very long time, strip mining. We could only find a tiny bit of iron, no diamonds. I have no idea what was happening, but we eventually stumbled on a cave, and I decided to give up on the strip mine and go caving. We killed some mobs along the way. We went exploring, looking for any bit of resources, and mostly just for iron. Here we ran into a bunch of creepers, which I sniped, a zombie that I took out very quickly, and then we got to harvesting. There were some more mobs around here, and I was not shy about fighting them since I had my full set of diamond enchanted armor. Watch the skeleton get absolutely wrecked, doing no damage to me whatsoever. There's a zombie up there. Hey, how's it going? You're gonna get taken out too. Your buddy and the other buddy in the back. They stood no chance, and I went to mining out everything that I could find. We got iron, we saw some gold, and found this ginormous like cave in the middle of a cave. I don't know what you would call this, but there were so many resources in here. There's also an enderman sneaking about, and also a spitter. And here's a spitter sneaking his head out of that cave, but we shot him with our bow and took him out. Now we could safely mine all of our iron, and yes, there was a lot of iron to mine and a lot of gold as well, but we got as much as we could. I wanted to get at least 1.5 stacks so we wouldn't have to come back and mine again later. There's no point running all the way back here to get more iron whenever we need it. Might as well bulk harvest. But we eventually got that 1.5 stacks of iron that we needed, went back to harvest some more honey and got the remaining resources that we would need for the farm, which is a lot of wood for smelting, of course, and for building as well. Chopping down a lot of trees. Every single time I go out for trees, like I said, guys, we chop down an entire forest. I just cut most of it out. We also got some more glass. On day 53, we crafted all of the items that we would need to create our farm, comparators, hoppers, and dispensers, and went to the corner of our building and started building up this farm using wood. And this farm would help us out so much in the future because we no longer had to harvest each and every bottle of honey. We could just sit back and collect it. And let's take a moment to appreciate that in the background, we're always smelting items and cooking food. But once we had some of that steak, we went out to get the dye for some dyed glass and got even more sand to make bottles that would be inside of the dispenser. So we had enough for the glass, but we didn't have enough to create a full stack of bottles. We got some more dye, and now we just created our stained glass. We wanted to make it on theme. We want to make it to look as best as possible. We started adding in the yellow stained glass to the front to create a transparent area, allowing us to see our bees at work. We extended the design towards the back to create more surface area for our flowers, built up the roof, and started adding in more yellow stain to the front, preparing for day 54, where we'd eventually make the last few remaining bottles, adding a trap door in order to access the dispenser, and finally leading the bees into the hive. And this would actually be a really difficult process because tricking the bees into an enclosed area is not really easy to do. As you can see, they weren't falling for it. They kept trying to escape, but eventually, after trapping myself in there along with them, they made the hive their home, and I finally made a door towards the back, and boom, we now had the enclosure completed with the bees inside. And I continued by building a collection area underneath the ground to access the chest. That way I don't need to go into the hive and risk them getting out. But there we added in some staircases and some trapdoors. We checked on our sugarcane farm, which was producing sugarcane automatically, and then we finally finished up the top with glass. Day 55 was the day many of you have probably been waiting for. We prepared ourselves to enter the Nether. We made some tools, gathered some coal for torches, and enchanted our sword with Smite 2, our armor with Unbreaking of the highest degree, then grabbed our stack of potatoes and headed into the Nether. I tried to bring my dog along, but he didn't come the first time, so either way, now we're in the Nether and we're digging through trying to find the open terrain. But we found this little area where we got a bunch of gold nuggets. I was just mining this for some reason, and this angered our piglin, and he came towards us. We did make a few nice trades with him, but I thought after you traded, he would no longer attack you, so I eventually had to kill this guy after getting a potion from him. But I guess we got the potion, and we got the fun of defeating the piglin in battle. We made a staircase now up to the top, looking for the surface. I mined so much that I broke one of my pickaxes, but I heard the zombie pigmen making noise, so I eventually found where the open nether terrain was. We got into another scuffle with one of the zombie pigmen. This guy was actually about to kill me. He took out a lot of my hearts, and I was pretty worried about that, to be honest. But we're finally in the nether. Check it out. There was a soul sand desert next to me, as well as a ton of lava and this underground forest. I don't know the names of any of these things, guys. This is my first time playing survival, and one of my first times ever exploring the nether, so this is all really fun for me, very exciting. But yeah, we decided to make our way over to the soul sand area because I wanted some soul sand for my base. That would be such an amazing addition to my defenses. We made a bridge across this area, very risky I would say, to get shot down by a ghast or a random skeleton. Speaking of skeletons, we took those guys out to mine our soul sand in peace. I used up an entire iron shovel doing this, and then sniped one more skeleton for good measure. We went over to get the basalt. For me as a builder in the nether, this was all amazing building blocks. I turned my back for 2 seconds and more skeletons spawned, so I had to show them who's boss and assert my dominance. I also picked a fight with this ghast, and this was going to be a battle of of the ages. Check out how I strafe that fire charge. I did try to shoot it, but I also get out of the way of this one. That is pretty close, and I finally managed to hit the fire charge, and now the gas just peaced out. He just went away. I have no idea where he went. Somebody let me know, please. But now we headed back across the bridge and into the overworld because I wanted to take as many blocks out of the nether as possible, and we couldn't do that if our inventory was full. So we emptied out our inventory, checked on our auto farm to see if it was working, grabbed some more food, and went straight back in. This time we knew exactly where we were gonna go, so I mined through. My dog came along with me, and we basically created tunnels and staircases and went through all of the terrain looking for a nether fortress. I really wanted to find a nether fortress, as well as I added in some foreign blocks along our pathways to indicate where we've been. So I light forests on fire when we're on the overworld, and I place down wood in the nether. That's pretty funny. Now we continued past all of these cool different features like that lava lake at the bottom, and this is where the soul sand was. I was fighting just upstairs. We basically had to go all the way around and then build up. So at this point I had to staircase up to the top, and while I was trying to figure out how to do that, my dog fell into lava. So I guess it was a really bad idea to bring him along because he didn't really do anything besides fall into lava. And on day 57 we would find yet another nether forest. Inside this forest we found some hogs. I was gonna fight this guy to see how powerful he was. Not really that strong one-on-one, to be honest, but a bunch of them eventually found me and jumped me for killing their friend, and it got a little harder at this point. They were knocking me about, but with my full enchanted diamond armor, they really couldn't do anything. They were no match for my PvP skills, which is just getting hit again and again, over and over in the face until I eventually win. But we kept exploring. Day 57, we finally found that nether fortress. Check it out. It was down there in the pits. We made our way across and down, staircased all the way until we finally made it over to our nether fortress. There was a wither skeleton right there, which we sniped immediately, and I was super excited to go in here because we would get so much stuff. We got a saddle straight away with a horse armor. We killed a skeleton standing in the hallway. Check out those skills. I totally dodged all of those arrows, but the main thing we were looking for is, of course, the wither skeleton skulls, as well as the blaze rods or a blaze spawner. We also found some diamonds in here, and I didn't actually know diamonds spawn inside nether fortresses, since this was my first nether fortress, guys. And also there was a blaze here, which we also cleverly dodged, and yeah, we got some more diamonds. But we kept exploring this place, and it was surprisingly undefended. There was like nothing here. Is this how a nether fortress is? But we ran into some more wither skeletons and some blazes, which we just used our epic PvP skills to beat, and that looks awesome with shaders. You have just the light flying through the air, but we eventually got burnt. I was gonna say we eventually killed him, but yeah, we eventually shot that guy down, bridged over to allow the skeleton to come forward. I was really hoping to get a skull here, but we killed him and he dropped coal. Why do I need coal, and why is he dropping that? So unfortunately, after killing more mobs and more wither skeletons, we couldn't get any good drops. So yeah, we had to leave that nether fortress. We had some more fun action though as we were preparing to leave on day 58. We fought some hogs, some piglins, and gas were shooting us to add on top. At this point, I was feeling invincible. Nothing could touch me. I could conquer nether single-handedly, which is what I was doing. After coming out of that fortress, we were now having a real fight. Can you believe it? Here comes another gas. This guy doesn't know what's gonna happen. We shot away his first one. We punched out the other one out of the air. These fire charges didn't stand a chance. We took one right in the face, and here we go. Last one right back at you, bro. He totally just bit the dust, and we fought some more hogs as we were leaving. I was a little overconfident at this point because we nearly died from 2 piglins. This was crazy. Half my health was gone, but as you can see, I started to play very safe with the shield. Die, dude, get out of here. His friends came back for some more revenge, and I thought I would trick them with gold, but they immediately got to killing me. So I made a barrier, and then I sniped them from the top like a pro. I gathered some more glowstone as we was heading back and started making my way to the portal. Here's the pigmen, one-on-one. They're pretty easy. I also traded with this guy. I was really seeing how many gold I need to give him to where he stops hating me, but there was no amount. He was just endlessly wanting gold, but we eventually got some spectral arrows from him, which was pretty cool, and we made our way all the way back, as you can see, down the staircase, up towards the tunnel, and finally through the nether portal. By the way, we got a diamond horse armor in there with 2 saddles. That was crazy. I packed away all of the loot that I got and went out to gather some wood, because we always need wood. Like I said, we chop down entire forests every single time that we do this, but yeah, we needed to do this so many times. It is crazy. We checked on our sugarcane farm. It was working automatically. Then we gathered the 1 cow that was near our house to start out our farm. Day 59, we stocked back up on food and torches and headed out into the plains to find ourselves some apples and also the final cow for our farm. After chopping through about 7 trees, I only got 1 apple. Did they update it or something? Because I don't remember it being this hard. But we finally found the cow that we was looking for. That guy was in love, but we also picked up 2 sheep along the way. Now we can have the cow farm and the sheep farm. On day 60, we went back out into the world to find our horse. Remember, we killed every horse near us, so we had to travel for quite some time, but we eventually found this singular remaining horse. We managed to tame him using only 1 apple, and then we were able to equip him with the saddle and diamond armor. Now check it out, guys. We were in style with full diamond armor and a diamond armored horse. We continued traveling. Instead of heading back home, I wanted to find a swamp, which we did at day 61. Check it out. We're in the swamp. I started off this day by pillaring up to the top and checking my surroundings. Since we had to wait for nighttime anyways, I was pretty much just killing time. This was a pretty tiny swamp, but as we looked out into the terrain, we didn't find anything interesting, to be honest. Some different biomes, but we also looked into this dark oak forest, which I was hoping would contain some sort of generated structure, but yeah, nothing. So nighttime came and we prepared for the fight. The nether gave me all the confidence I would need to take out every single mob in my way. We fought a bunch of skeletons. These guys would turn on each other, and we would also battle some spiders. This combat was excellent for me. I was getting better at PvP through this series. We shot out some creepers, shot out some skeletons, and yeah, now there's like 50 arrows in the back of my head. We fought all the way through the night looking for slimes. No slimes were spawning, but a lot of skeletons were. I guess this was a skeleton swamp. This was their territory, but this guy was stuck in the water, and I put him out of his misery. Now, towards the end of the night, we also took out some zombies that was approaching our shelter. They need to back off. But on day 62, we traveled to another swamp. This is a completely different swamp, and you will see that we'll look back towards the old swamp in just a second. There you go. There's the old pillar. That's the old swamp. I traveled to this one because it would be much larger, and I was looking for slime, and we would eventually spot our first slime, and this was going to be the mother lode for me. I jumped down below, getting ready to fight this thing. I wanted those slime to make our sticky pistons. We took out every mob in sight. The slime is really not a problem here. Neither were the zombies. They were just candy to me. I was looking at them not as monsters, but as sticky pistons. Each one was 3 sticky pistons, and god dang it, that's all that I saw. We would continue fighting throughout the night to get as many slime balls as possible. I didn't want to make this trip more than 1 time, but it was very dark in the swamp, and with the darkness comes mobs, and we took out everyone that came our way with our bow and with our diamond sword, killing some more slimes here, and another zombie. How's it going? And behind us, what do you know, a creeper showed up, and you could tell I was getting better at PvP because my reaction time on that creeper explosion was so quick. We took no damage at all. I was feeling unstoppable, like nothing could take me down. 62 days into Minecraft, and we were absolutely dominating. I did not expect to do this well in hardcore. I thought I would be cringing in a corner somewhere, being scared of zombies, but we were no bar, no handles, no training wheels going after every single thing in sight. I was chasing it. I wasn't torching out anything. I wanted them to spawn, and I wanted all of the fun. This was actually super fun for me and not challenging at all. Even the creepers, I walked right up to them and slapped them down to get that gunpowder. Continued into the morning with a fight with these skeletons. It's a pretty good fight, actually, defending with the arrows and also hitting that spider. And they started fighting each other. So they were so tired of fighting me and my epic PvP skills that they turned on one another. The sun was now rising. I could proudly say that I survived a night in a dark swamp. Day 63, after getting 44 slime balls, we killed an enderman and then decided to spend another night in the swamp. I wanted to clear out the area to make more mobs spawn down, as well as to give us a nice PvP arena. Even terraforming a bit and chopping down trees actually gave me more apples than anything I've done up until this point. 12 apples. But we waited for the sun to set on day 63 and began another epic night of fighting. But this night wouldn't go how I expected. It started off pretty normal, killing a few mobs and getting some slimes. Nothing too fishy so far. We killed a few mobs and was doing well until we spotted a bunch of creepers. Did you see that? 3 creepers, 2 over there, and 2 more. For some reason, slime stopped spawning, and creepers were spawning everywhere. Once again, I was being foiled by these pesky creepers. After killing almost 7 of them, you saw 5 more spawned in the distance. What on earth was happening? I was no longer farming slime balls, I was farming gunpowder. But here's a pretty interesting fight with some skeletons. These guys can't take me on 2 at a time anymore. I totally got them beat. But yeah, we continued killing creepers and killing mobs until it would reach daytime as usual. Look at the amount of creepers on the screen, guys. What is happening? I'm not even exaggerating. After I kill all of these creepers, more just keep spawning. They're just everywhere. But the next day I decided to just start heading back home because we had a stack and a quarter of slime balls. Also, this journey would take up almost the entire day. We traveled so far across multiple biomes, multiple swamps, multiple plains and forests. It was very, very far away is what I'm trying to say. By sundown, we had made it home finally, and we used some of the slime balls to make a lead to tie our horse down. And here's me taking a screenshot with my diamond armored horse wearing my full set of diamond enchanted armor. Day 65, it was time for my next redstone creation. This is going to be an auto nether portal, so we can turn this thing on and off. We messed around with the design and stopped to kill an enderman along the way, but after trial and error, we found out that since 1.13 is out, it broke some redstone. We had to make a few adjustments, which wasn't too bad, I would say, and then we got the portal up and running. Check that out. All that was left to do was to make a few modifications to fit the redstone in a compact space, and then decorate our portal, which had now expanded into this much larger size. We did this by, of course, placing down random blocks on the right side and on the left side to make something that looks like somebody put in effort. But there's our portal. We finished up day 65 by adding in some netherrack around our base, and this would be a precursor to more defenses in the future. Day 66, we started out by adding some fire to the decoration of the portal. That took it to the next level in my opinion, and then we gathered redstone, slime blocks, redstone torches, and started making all of the items that we would need to make a hipster doorway. Now, I've never actually made a hipster doorway ever before in survival Minecraft. This would be my first time ever doing it, so that's a fun fact for you. I've made it a billion times in creative mode, but this is my first time in survival mode. The hardest thing was just getting the positions, not being able to fly, but after some time, we got it up and running, and I was super proud of this because, like I said, I've never actually done it. If I could manage to make a redstone house in hardcore mode, that would be so cool. But that's what we were doing, clearing out the area now to add in the hidden inputs. And yes, we were doing T flip-flop, guys. We were doing this exactly how we would do it in creative mode, and I am super proud that we put in this much effort. Check out our doorway now. No longer do we have 2 wooden doors, we have that hipster doorway. And I don't know if you saw that, but we added a lever to our farm, which was such a simple idea that I didn't do before. But instead of using buttons, we can just use the lever to keep the dispensing of the bone meal on for a longer period of time. Duh! And then we finished up the input on the inside and covered up the area on day 67. Now we're adding in item frames, yes, to make this absolutely complete. We got some honey blocks from our automatic honey farm, so that was going quite well. We could eventually build an elevator pretty soon. We went back outside to fight an enderman that we saw, and with the confidence we got from the swamp, this was not gonna go my way. We got the baby zombie hitting us, we're on fire, and this thing almost killed us. Luckily, there was a half chopped down tree over here which I could hide under so we could kill that enderman. Boy, that was way too close. We started terraforming a bit around our house to make everything nice and smooth, and then we finished up the netherrack that was surrounding the entire building, just building it out and then lighting it on fire. So this would be another layer of defense, and then we did some more terraforming, but there it is, guys. Check it out, wrapping around the entire side, and we continue terraforming this corner, which we keep revisiting because we keep expanding it. We finished out the lighting of the netherrack, completely surrounding the building, and then adding a few decorations to our farm to make it look more complete. So there's our farm. Day 68, we used our last remaining diamonds to repair all of our tools and gear. We damaged our gear quite a lot through all of our battles, but once I had finished doing that, I headed out to get some sand and gravel to start making white concrete. The mob spawner was coming through once again with all of the bone meal, allowing us to easily make all of those nice white concrete blocks. I continued the next day processing our white concrete powder into concrete blocks. I found it's a really creative method for doing so, and once we had completed that, I started to destroy the frame of my previous house. I wanted to replace all of these blocks with white concrete, so we just went to destroying absolutely everything. I did hesitate before doing it, and I know some of you would as well, to destroy everything you have built up until this point, but I just had to replace the blocks. It wasn't too big of a deal, and it would look a lot better in the end anyways. So we replaced up all of these blocks, and now we had something looking a bit more modern. We finished out the day 69 by continuing to decorate our farm, adding in glass to the front, adding some decorations towards the back, and covering up our redstone using composters and making a composting area. Day 70, it was time to catch up on my farming. We bred some of our sheep and cows and started the process of making wheat once again. We hadn't done this since the very beginning of the series, but with our new system, it was really easy. We finished out by adding all of those seeds into the composter. We also checked on our honey farm, which had produced 10 balls of honey so far. That was going great. And then we crafted the materials and items that we would need in order to create a hidden enchantment room. And this enchantment room would just be pretty simple, just sticky pistons pulling our blocks into the ground. I also didn't even have to break any of the bookcases. I just dug out below them and placed the sticky pistons there and just made the enchantment room exactly where it was before. This would help us for saving room, of course. On day 71, I removed that quote-unquote temporary doghouse, which lasted 70 days almost, and made the mining shack into their home. I also bred some of the dogs. Right now, you can see me building up a tower in my base. I wanted a tower so I could see my surroundings and also for it to look very epic from the distance. So we built up a very simple tower using stone brick blocks. I added some stairs in between to not make it so blocky, and I also put water down to the bottom. That's a top tip for you builders out there on survival, that if you fall off the tower, you'll just land in some cozy and cushy water. But we continued by making these dirt scaffoldings around the entire building so we could wrap around our wooden slabs, and check it out, it was going pretty well so far. We finally reached up to the top where we were building out the viewing platforms, and we had an area for crafting as well, and we also built out the roof. I didn't again plan this, it just turned out well. And at the end of day 72, we had the tower completed. Now I'm just taking a tour of this and checking out all of the awesome views. This is mainly why I created it, to come up here and gaze upon my base, check out all of the things I used to build it up, all of the scaffoldings, and now here's a picture of our base from the outside. Day 73, I went into the mines and found absolutely nothing, so I immediately left and went looking for an ocean. We didn't find an ocean, but we found these mega swamps. When I wasn't looking for a swamp, we find two swamps kelps right next to each other, and they were massive. Now, we were looking for the ocean to find kelp, and the kelp will allow us to make a bubble elevator that would lead down to our mine. We would travel further than we've ever traveled before into this lovely looking swamp pass where we originally found our bees. I camped for the night in this dark oak forest, which did not yet again contain any generated structures, even though it was a massive dark oak forest. But I looked around in the terrain and found a gap in this mountain. I was thinking that it would be a river we could easily ride our boat down towards, so we started to do that, and we eventually got to a point where we had to build over the mountain. We got to the top and just saw more plains out into the distance, so I rode down a waterfall, went across the plains until we found another portal, went into a snowy biome, and then camped here for the night. Day 75, we continued on, once again not spotting any oceans in the distance, only forests and plains, but we did manage to spot a witch's hut. We traveled for so long, I didn't want this trip to be for nothing, so I went into the swamp to fight the witch. I had a big brain moment where I thought just burning down the hut would kill the witch. I mean, it makes sense, the entire hut is on fire. So after thinking I killed the witch, I went up to this wandering trader that was burning in the fire, and the witch started attacking us. We immediately got hit with poison and instant damage, and this witch was also invisible. I don't understand how this works in Minecraft or why witches are invisible, but it makes it very difficult in order to kill these guys. We ate a golden apple and came back up to maximum health, and now I was just gonna guess where this guy was, because unlike ender dragons and wither bosses and all these other mobs in Minecraft, it was very difficult to fight something that you couldn't see. This is probably one of the most difficult battles I've ever fought, simply because I'm shooting into nothingness. But eventually we would find where the witch was located because he was tossing his bottles, and then we shot him down, getting that one piece of redstone. Was this worth it? Absolutely not. But we started to head back now towards our base, and by day 76 we had made it back home. We bred our sheep and this time headed off into the opposite direction towards our second village, because I had just remembered that we found an ocean heading off in this direction before. So I made it to that hut that we had created earlier, continued rowing down into the distance, and then we pillared up to the top where we spotted an ocean. Finally we could get the kelp for a bubble elevator, which I did. I traveled across all of that terrain, grabbed as much kelp as I possibly could, 3 stacks of kelp, and then we headed back through the night. I eventually spotted my temporary base where we would sleep for the night. Then we woke up in the morning to spot a bunch of flaming zombies. There are a lot of these guys for some reason, but we took them out. That was kind of fun to fight all these zombies that were on fire, and there were a lot. I mean, literally like 10 of them. But day 78, I decided to dig out an area for a redstone elevator. This wasn't going to be the bubble elevator. I wanted the bubble elevator to connect up to a basement. And in order to make a basement, we needed another elevator to lead down into it. Does that make any sense? We'd spend the better part of the day digging out this massive hole in the ground, which wouldn't even be enough. And then we would continue into the mine into day 79 by getting our obsidian we would need for the lift, since we're using honey blocks, and then we would start building up our lift using sticky pistons, the honey blocks, and the obsidian, and making all of the room for the redstone. I didn't save the replay this time, so we just have this portion of the build. On day 80, I finally accepted the fact that I couldn't add in the redstone elevator room into the building without making it look bad, so I decided to completely strip down our entire house. Yes, we're going to completely destroy everything that is built here, and I know this is insane, but I wanted the house to look good for you guys, and I wanted everything to have space and to make sense. And plus we had so many resources that why the heck not, let's make something that actually looks good and not something that's sort of half-baked. So we continued by destroying all the walls until we had this space, and yeah, that is insane. Day 81, we continued digging down the structure and also building up the walls for the new house. I had already built one side of the wall right over here, and it worked really well with the door we already had, so we didn't have to rebuild that. And now here you're seeing me build up the second side of the building. This would be made out of a lot of smooth stone and glass, and if you've noticed, I also changed my texture pack. I also dammed out half of our lake in order to get some more sand. We would need a lot of glass for this build, as well as we would need a lot of wood. We chopped down an entire forest, even though I only showed you 2 trees being punched, finishing up the destruction of our storage room, and then on day 82 started planting an oak wood wood forest, and this oak forest would give us all of the wood that we would need in order to make the floors. We went back to mining and building. We would need a lot of fuel and a lot of wood to create the floor and to smelt down all of the stone, and a lot of the process was done in the background. But as we continued building up all of the different walls, we added in the different decorations. I moved around some of these utility blocks, all the furnaces and stuff that was in this corner. I switched over to a temporary spot in the house until I could build out those areas, and this is how our farm was going. By the way, we had a lot of cows and a lot of sheep, which we could use later to make item frames and paintings. We started building up the back wall of our storage using our white concrete, reutilizing those blocks, and then continued with the middle construction of those two walls. This is how it was going so far. Day 83 started with me digging out the space in between the two sections of our house. We would have to remove a lot of wood as well as dirt, and also flatten out the terrain since there were gaps in the space below the floor. But once we had completed this process, I spotted a few pillagers at the back of my house. These guys weren't be too smart, dying to the defenses of my base. The defenses were coming in handy. Once again, we found the captain and killed this guy to get Bad Omen and his banner, which we placed on the front door. I wanted to keep this to the end, but we didn't manage to do that. I wanted really to get a raid going, but it disappeared before we could finish the house. But as you can see, we're now building up the top portion of the house, and this continued into day 84, where we continued building the walls, the floor, and the roof of the top section. This was going to be our bedroom, and I went back to harvest some more wood in our oak farm, and then I made the biggest mistake, and I came the closest to death at this point in the series. So I was gonna fight this Enderman, and I thought I had him in the bag, but this guy was a lot stronger than most Endermen. He hit through my shield twice, and at this point I was down to one heart, guys. One heart. We were so close to death, and look how close he is to me. Day 84, we could have died here with just one hit of this Enderman. I was freaking out. I hope you freaked out along with me, because that was insanity. We eventually healed back up, and I was so scared to move from this position. I was really thinking that this was a god Enderman, and he was definitely going to kill me, but he would eventually come back, and we would eventually hit him with only one swing of our sword. That was crazy. But we continued the rest of the day by building. I didn't want to go off into too many adventures after that, and then we started adding in the glass for the front. But this is how it was going so far. It was looking a lot better than the house we had before, I'll tell you that. We started building up the back walls, and we also went back to check on our honey farm. 13 bottles of honey, that's not bad. We went to replant our oak farm. This would happen multiple times throughout this entire process because we just needed so much wood. Then we started digging out the floor for our main room that will contain our elevator, replacing it with our oak planks. Paying very close attention to detail this time, we actually had a plan for this design. Now we were adding in oak wood to the corner of the storage room. We had to visit our farm once again, chopping down an entire forest and replanting it to finish building out that wall. Then we started destroying all of the storage chests in this area. We had to actually grab all of the items from those chests and put it into a temporary one until we could relocate them afterwards. Now we're preparing for the floor, which would be made out of our oak wood, using up a lot of these blocks, giving us another trip to our farm, which we chopped and replanted an entire forest once again. And then we would use more of our white concrete, reutilizing those blocks since we already had made them before. And then we would just continue with the construction of the storage room until we were complete, going into day 85. Now we're building up the roof. This was going to be the final portion. I was going to use every single smooth stone block that I had. We paid a visit to our oak farm once again, and then added some depth to the front of our building. We continued the construction of the main room. This time, instead of the back being made out of white concrete like in the storage room, it was made out of glass. Here's the working enchantment room. It fit perfectly into our house, and also our doorway, which blended very well with the front frame of the building that we had created, utilizing glass as well as that smooth stone. And here is the back section of the building. We tried making some slime blocks, but it was too costly, and then we continued into day 87 by finishing up the roof in the storage room, and then starting the roof in the main room. This would require even more wood, and then we finished up the hallway wall, and then added in a kitchen. This would be the new base of operations for smelting items. We visited the sheep farm to get some wool for carpet, just harvesting all these guys, including harvesting the cows. It was finally time. That was the first time that we did it. We added the carpet to the top of the kitchen to make it look better, and now we're building the remaining walls to our main room as well as the roof. So we went back and forth throughout this process doing many different things because we had to wait really for the stone to be smelted down. We revisited our forest yet again, and this time we were finally going to remove these temporary blocks in our smelting area and transfer them into the main kitchens. Now we could cook all those blocks and it will look nice. Now we're headed back here now into the storage room on day 88 to reorganize our items, and I was going to place the chests into the wall. So now we had it looking a lot better, and I didn't plan this to begin with, but it turned out really well that we had a double layered wooden wall on this corner. We even added in item frames, which was pretty cool, and we finished up the very top with our slabs, and now that room is way better than before, and it was now completed. We even added in a few minor touches and then finished out the roof. Remember, I did all of this just to add in the elevator room, which we finally started to do. I also took a sneak peek of the house so far from the outside. Check it out, a lot better. And now we're building up the final back portion of our main room made out of oak. We added a staircase leading up to our bedroom and finally began the decoration of this top floor with different pillars as well as a wall, and we expanded it to make it bigger since it was kind of too short. We added in our bed as well as all of the glass towards the back. On day 89, we finally started to finish up our elevator room. We did this by adding in whatever remaining obsidian we had to add in, and then the inputs for the elevator so it would actually work. Now check it out. We had our elevator that would take us up to the top and then send us down to the bottom. All that was left was to cover up the redstone and do as best a job as we possibly can. We did this by adding in new walls as well as a new floor. Then we finished out this side of the building by creating this easy design. It wasn't looking too bad, and then we continued with the construction of the side wall. There was the inside so far. We added in some glass towards the back, and on day 90 we got some more fuel from our forest and finished up the roof. Now we were just decorating the inside. I added in some few random decorations. I was going to add in my first armor here. I headed back down below to grab some armor from our mob grinder. Since I didn't want to create a separate armor, I just decided to put some gold armor on this guy, which looks pretty cool. We added in some doorways into the storage room, got some more wood from our farm, and then we created some trapdoors, and we would use these trapdoors to add a decorative feature into our hallway, and I would build up and basically place trapdoors underneath this entire section and then also add a hanging light. So I think now it looks a little bit better. Day 91, it was time for some interior decorating. We did this by adding in a couch as well as some red carpet to the floor. We even plopped down a painting which we made using the wool, and then we continued with the construction and digging out of the bottom basement floor. So after we created the elevator, we needed to also dig out the basement, and this is where everything else would be located, our farms, our bubble elevator. But we pretty much dug out the first initial portion of this on day 91 and continued into day 92. I would spend a considerable portion of the series digging out holes in the ground for some reason, but we'd eventually get a lot of this completed. We would even add in the bridge that would take us across the waterway that I would eventually make. And here you see me digging out the space for the main room, which would be made out of white concrete. The rest was just a walkway, believe it or not. And on day 93, we started adding in some redstone in order to make a lighting system for the waterway, which you'll see a little bit later. In order to do this, we had to dig out the entire floor beneath the bridge and add in the redstone lamps, add in the redstone. It was very simple redstone, just using torches, repeaters, and adding them on a delay. And that's the redstone completed. Check out the system now working. As we come down, the lights turn on in sequence. We started the decoration of the bottom room. We added in some water and finished up the flooring for the main reception space, I would call it. Now what was left to do was to get the coordinates for the mine, get the coordinates for the underground basement, and start digging out the space for our bubble elevator. We finished digging this out at the end of day 94 by just reaching to the bottom mine, and then on day 95 we added in the water, using this to fill in the other portion of the hole that we dug. Remember, I dug 2 holes because digging straight down in Minecraft is a bad idea. I almost died while doing this, which is typical of my fashion. And then at the bottom on day 95 we created the block swapper in order to have this working as a bubble elevator. So this is basically the redstone part, and check it out, it works. Very simple redstone. It just takes a lot of components, a lot of sticky pistons too. We finished by decorating this area, adding in our signs, and letting the water flow, and then we would go into this space and plant down some kelp and send that kelp all the way to the top, removing it, and then we can now have the working elevation. So check it out, we went down from our mine, and this is how quick we get up to the top. This was definitely worth creating, definitely worth looking for. We finished the decoration of this area, and now what I needed to do was add a button all the way to the top in order to swap the blocks from that location. So in order to do this, we had to staircase all the way down and carry that redstone signal all the way back up to the top, which we did, and added in that button. And now, as you see, I hit the button and we get sucked down this time and go now into our mine. There's the bubble elevator now working. Day 97, I enchanted my bow with flame and went out looking for adventure. As the 100 days was approaching, I wanted to end it off on a high note. We encountered this enderman, which we fought. This time we had better luck than we had before. I arrived at the first village where I thought I still had the bad omen to trigger a raid, but after figuring out I didn't, I ran into this creeping creeper who nearly killed us on day 97 again. What is with these guys spawning out of nowhere? But anyways, I continued by defeating every mob that I saw here into the night. Then I headed over to the second village where I was hoping there was going to be pillagers, but pillagers are so hard to find. These guys only spawn once in the 97 days. But right next to our village, there was an ocean. We were looking for this thing for so long, but it was right there. And then we found a shipwreck, which we got some diamonds on. I didn't save that replay, unfortunately, but we swam around in our boats into the night looking at this awesome coral biome. This is the first time me actually finding a coral biome in a survival mode, so that was pretty cool for me. We tested out our flame bow when we were coming back from the ocean on these mobs that were just sitting on the beach or just chilling out, minding their own business, and I lit them on fire. But we went back now through the night and made it back home. I decided that instead of roaming around and wasting the last 2 days that I had, I would just return and finish up the decorations, adding in all the paintings, a cauldron with some leaves. That was a pretty expensive decoration, some blue carpet, and creating a space to add in our diamond armor. I felt like Thanos at this point, hanging up my armor and gear and just sitting back on my farm and relaxing. So yeah, that was exactly how I would describe it. Now into day 98, I used my diamond pickaxe, which I had repaired up until this point, to dig out the entire basement space. This was going to contain my farm. I wanted to put my farm underground because it was blocking a very nice screenshot of my house up above. So we eventually dug out this entire space. We saw some endermen that was spawning everywhere, so we went ahead to fight these guys. We're getting burnt by my defenses yet again. We killed one in our bedroom and then killed another one in our storage room, so I guess that counts for some action. We got another ender pearl, by the way. We visited our forest to chop it down and replant it yet again because we need a lot of wood to add in a floor to this underground area. We used what's left of the white concrete on the left and right hand side. Then we added in a roof at the very top. On day 99, approaching day 100, we added in the redstone for the farm, creating a new design, a more compact design using our observer blocks. This would actually dispense and grow the items a lot faster using the bone meal, of course. And there is our system. We added in the glass, and then we went up to the top to remove this chest and transfer it all down below. So now we had a clear area on top and everything was looking nice. We waterlogged some blocks, which works. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen, 100 days of hardcore Minecraft. I think I accomplished what I set out to do. I tried my very best to create whatever I could to create the best of the best in the time that was given to me, and we created an entire defense base. We created an entire redstone house. Everything about this adventure, whether it's mining, whether it's finding my first diamond, going into the nether for the first time, feeling that danger, finding our nether fortress, doing all of these amazing things was like doing it for the first time. Knowing that you can lose it all, knowing that you only had one life was such a rush. It was such a thrill and really made me fall in love with Minecraft all over again. I hope you guys enjoyed the journey, enjoyed the adventure that you went along with me, and enjoyed this video. If you did, of course, be sure to comment, let me know what you thought, and to like and subscribe. But this was Twiistz at the end of our 100-day challenge. Will there be 200 days? I don't know, you tell me. But until then, I'll see you all next time.